Warning, the following video contains spoilers. If you don't want this episode spoiled for you, switch the video off now. The code that I cracked has been cracked. The cracked code has been cracked, so now it's no longer a code that's been cracked, it's now just a broken theory. For the past few weeks I've been operating under the presumption that all the odd-numbered episodes of this year's series of My Hero Academia would be the lighter episodes, quote-unquote light. I mean, it's not exactly like they're going to be all singing, all dancing, but compared to the even-numbered episodes, they'd be a lot more lighter and more relaxed, and all the even-numbered episodes, like I say, would be the heavier ones, the darker ones, the more depressing ones, the more drama-filled ones. And this week we have an even-numbered episode which is... well, it's not the most grim, dark and horrible stuff going on aside with the stuff with Eri, but we'll get onto that slightly shortly. But still, I mean, look, maybe I've just been desensitised from years of watching gangster and crime drama stuff for the past few years when this kind of stuff doesn't really feel so horrible. I mean, bullets made with blood. Ooh, yeah, that's kind of gross, and where that blood is coming from is kind of horrible, but in the grand scheme of things, when you've seen bodies getting dissolved in acid, it kind of doesn't really compare, though of course that's apples to oranges. This is a show predominantly aimed at children and teenagers, whereas those are aimed at adults, so you can't really compare and contrast, but you know, maybe I'm just jaded, old and cynical like that. Now, I don't want to get into this review doing it like a scene-for-scene retelling, because personally, I don't like reviews like that, because it doesn't really express how I really felt about an episode as much as it just feels like a lame attempt at doing like a MST3K kind of thing or a riff tracks kind of thing. However, this week I'm going to have to lean into that episode slightly. At the start of the episode, we have our heroes gathering together outside their dorm rooms at UA. And they're all talking about, oh yeah, today's a really weird day. I mean, usually we go here, but today we're not going there. Did none of them really think to ask each other where they were going? Because all the way through their journey, they were all taking the same route, all getting on the same buses and trains and what have you. But did no one turn around to say, yeah, today's kind of weird. Today's kind of weird. Like, usually we're told to go to the offices of the work placement we're doing, but today they've told us to go to Big Co. Oh, wow, you're going to Big Co, so am I. Well, apparently we got this big meeting. Yeah, we got this big meeting at Big Co. I mean, it's really weird. Sure, I understand it on a meta level because he wants to build up the mystery as to what they're actually going into, because anyone who saw the preview from last week knows what they're going into, but still, it just feels like a really odd little moment in the episode itself. Like, oh, whatever, I'm getting distracted now. Another little bit that I kind of enjoyed with this episode, leaning more into the traditional kind of way that I do in reviews, is this speech that Eraserhead gave towards the end of the episode itself. Though I kind of feel that it would have meant a little bit more had we seen more of him in this series, or maybe if it came a season or so previously where there was more of him in it and the relationship between him and Midoriya was a little bit more active. I mean, I appreciate it, it's well written, it was really emotional and lovely, but at the same kind of time, it wouldn't have really made much of a difference. It was Aoyama or anybody else in the extended cast who we've not seen for a while making a speech like this. And to be honest with you, when they first meet him in the meeting room, I was half expecting him to say, yeah, I was just sleeping on the floor, and then when I woke up, everyone was here, so I just thought I'd join them. I mean, it's a silly joke, but I just kind of always imagine him just sleeping somewhere, and if anything happens around him, it's coincidental. It's just like, oh, there's villains here, so better go to work. Alright, but something I seriously didn't like about this episode, and this is something that's leaning more into the meta kind of things, is the fact that this episode was pretty much entirely just everybody sitting around a table and talking about a problem. Now, if this was an episode of Doctor Who, I'd be foaming at the mouth right now, wagging my finger, getting angry and saying, Doctor Who is dead! But with this episode, it's the whole episode. It's not like midway through the episode they all decide, right, we're just going to sit down and talk about our feelings. It's everything that the episode itself is supposed to be. It's a meeting where they're sat at a table. They're sat at the table because it's a meeting. It's a whole episode about a meeting because they're having the meeting talk about things where they're sat at the table. They have to be sat at the table because it's a meeting, because meetings to sit at the table. That's why they're here. What's one of the meeting? Yeah, not everything was around the table. There's stuff towards the beginning and the end, but good grief. Just whatever. Whatevs. As for the emotional, deep, dark and heavy stuff, the stuff that we kind of expected from the even-numbered episodes of this series of My Hero Academia, it's the stuff with Eri, and you know what? Someone save Eri. I don't know. I don't care where they are in the story or what it means. Just save Eri. Someone go on save Eri. Someone start a hashtag. Hashtag save Eri. Release the Tokyo one or release the Naboo one because they name certain locations after planets in Star Wars. I mean, it's so depressing and everything that's going on in my personal life at the moment. I'm just there like, cause I just want to give her a hug and tell her everything's gonna be okay because it's look. I'm just there watching their fingers mouth. You know what, if I ever saw Overhaul, I'd bash him up big style. I'd go at him. Look, Mr. Overhaul, I know you have a quirk that can turn me into wallpaper paste from the merest touch of me, but, you know, you don't mess with a northerner. We remember everything, and we know all the best places to bash someone up. All the stuff surrounding her, it's sad, it's depressing, and it really makes you want her to get saved in the end. And I'm sure that in the end, she will get saved. It's just that, in the meantime, with an episode like this, she's the emotional bit. Everything else is just office work. Here's the serious bit. Here's the emotional bit, which kind of makes the whole episode itself feel like a thing, which I'll probably discuss a little bit more in the overview itself. Okay, so my last little thing before we actually get into the overview itself and my overall feelings of the episode as a whole, I feel that, to be honest with you, 20 minutes isn't long enough for a show like this. I know that 20-minute timestamp is typical for cartoons, anime, and most televised animation as a whole, but it does end up meaning that with an episode like this, which is almost entirely focused on the one scene, and an extended scene at that, it means anything that happens immediately, beginning of it, and particularly at the end of it, kind of ends up feeling not quite as developed as it really should do. With this series thus far, the final scenes and the final sequences of the episodes don't really feel like ending points or really that effective cliffhangers. At the end of these episodes, you should be infused, geared up and excited to see what happens next week, but I don't really have that. The way that the end, it just makes the scenes just feel as though they've been cut off abruptly. But anyway, I'm going to start getting to a whole other discussion right now, so let us now go into the overview and give my overall feelings as what I thought of the episode itself. Okay, so it's time for the overview. What do I think of the episode as a whole? And as a whole, I did kind of enjoy it. I mean, the fact this almost entirely of this episode is just them sat around a table talking, as important and as big and as interesting as that conversation might be, it's not exactly visually interesting or mentally stimulating, particularly as a lot of the stuff that was discussed was more or less, at least from my perspective, clarifications of stuff we've already knew, or clarifications of certain theories that we may have had in ourselves personally. There wasn't anything in it that really felt terribly mind-blowing or substantial, or anything that really changes the landscape of what's going on. Sure, we ended up getting the confirmation that those little bullet things really did come from Overhaul, or at least he's involved with it somewhere, and that the blood within Sign is probably Eri's blood. That's neat, that's creepy and spooky and really gross, but as a whole, it's just an office meeting. It's just everybody sat around the table talking about stuff going on, and to explain, you know, Night Eye's quirk to see the future. It's not infinite, and it's not able to do everything at once. It has its limitations, which kind of feels like something that should have been explained weeks ago when we actually first learnt about the quirk, rather than explaining it now. But again, look, there's so much about this show that you kind of feel that another run at the script, or there's certain stuff that, if I was in charge of editing this for television, there's certain stuff I'd take out, but at that point, the anime stuff would end up feeling more like an art style rather than a narrative and art style. You know, as I've said previously, and in my big review that I did of, or rather my initial impressions video I did of My Hero Academia, I'm not an anime person, so I'm approaching this more as this being a TV show or just any other animation. I know some people may take issue with that, but that's just the way I'm looking at this. I'm not looking at this with the same kind of eyes of a seasoned veteran who knows how these story structures work and how these tropes actually evolve. I'm looking at this as just a normal, everyday person on the street with cursory and pop culture level knowledge of these shows, someone who watched them all in the past. I mean, the episode itself was fine at the end of the day, but there's nothing within it that made me go, aha, so that's what's going on, or, oh no, that's what's going to happen next week, or anything like that. It just feels like, okay, so good, they have a plan or something. My knowledge of screenwriting tells me this plan isn't going to work and it's going to backfire horribly, but we'll see. I wouldn't put money on it being that way, but That's only because I'm not a betting person, but we'll see. Whatever, we're getting distracted now. Thank you for watching. Comment down below, like, share, subscribe. Do all the stuff that YouTube wants you to do, particularly as YouTube is getting increasingly scary these days. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.